So, after an exceptionally long wait, finally we got our Dragonflight talents, and my first impressions? Pretty damn happy with what we've gotten. There's a lot of good stuff in here. A couple of things I would change, but overall very, very pleased with this. So, highlights from the general tree. We've got Soothing Mist now, which is awesome. It's a channeled heal that you can instantly cast Vivify during the channel, which is pretty nice. But then also we've got instant cast of Vivify. We haven't had a spammable instant heal since Mists. From a gameplay standpoint, this is amazing. It just feels way better to have an instant cast heal as a monk. I remember that transition from Mop to Wad, and like going from Healing Spheres to Surging Mist was the worst feeling. And then we've just dealt with it for 8 years since then. Oh man, it's going to be so good to have this back. I sincerely hope they keep this. If you've looked at the talent tree, you've probably already seen Roll over here. There's a blue post that confirms that this isn't Roll, it's actually an extra charge of Roll. Roll is baseline, so an extra charge of Roll is there. Don't think it belongs there though. I think Roll should be over here where Detox is. Maybe swap those two around. But anyway, we've got this passive damage reduction over here. Tiger's Lust, and this is kind of like your utility section. So Tiger's Lust, in cap, cooldown reduction, disable. Moving down here, we've got our Interrupt, Fort Brew as well, and then something that buffs Fort Brew or gives you cooldown reduction. So 25% increased dodge chance and 25% increased armor is pretty solid. But that cooldown reduction, I wonder what the base cooldown of Fort Brew is. If it's 3 minutes, then 1 minute cooldown of Fort Brew is insane. If it's 5 minutes, then it's just going to revert it to the current 3, which is whatever. But then a 5-minute cooldown stronger Fort Brew. I'm curious to see what the cooldown on that is. But let's just go ahead and just pick that one for now. You can get Celerity or Chi Torpedo separate from Tiger's Lust now. So with that, you can have 3 rolls on a 15-second cooldown and have Tiger's Lust, which is more mobility than I think we've ever had. So that's really good. Up here we've got Jade Lightning, increased range, and just like a basic healing taken increase, and then also like just a passive damage increase, which you probably want. I think these are optional. You probably don't need the healing taken increase, but I guess we'll see with the talent points we have left. Transcendence is awesome. Ring of Peace, huge Sun Kick damage modifier there, which you definitely want. You can get Diffuse and Dampen Harm together. So defensively, that's really good. You can get Expel Harm, Touch of Death Execute, and we've got 7 points remaining. Escape from Reality made it back in, so that's a legendary from now, which barely gets used by Windwalkers because you can't really afford to take it over Kiefer's, but now you can grab that. And the cool thing is, I'm imagining you can teleport behind the pillar with Escape from Reality, get that 70% Vivify increase healing, stacked with increased Vivify healing from here, which are instant, and then you can get Soothing Mist as well. So you can channel Soothing Mist and spam buffed Vivifiers. That's going to be nice. But personally what I'm thinking is to go down here to get Jade Serpent statue. So what I'm picturing is essentially leaving a Jade Serpent statue behind a pillar, let's say. Leave the statue next to your port, and then teleport back with Transcendence and Escape from Reality. And then Soothing Mist yourself, and then your statue will heal you too, and then spam Vivifies. It's going to be some absolutely insane hybrid healing. Before that though, we've got these 3 new talents. When your healing spells heal more than 3 people below 35% HP, heal for an additional amount. When you deal damage to 3 different enemies, deal an extra amount of damage. And when you take 20% of your HP as damage in a single hit, reduce damage you take. No idea how these are going to work. I mean, I have a general idea, but I would like to see how exactly the healing one works. If it requires you to have 3 targets around you, then I assume it's not going to be fantastic and mostly useless, but I would still take it for the Jade statue for sure. Depending on what this is, which we don't know yet, I imagine you might have to go down here for like extra damage, but it might be a sacrifice that you could make because this is just a general tree, so it might not be huge. You can get some extra tankiness over here. There's also these 3 passives. This gives you avoidance, this gives you movement speed, and this gives you leech, which I imagine will be very nice in dungeons and stuff. and like PvE content, if you can manage to make some sacrifices and grab that leech, your group's gonna love you for it. Imagine your entire raid team having 4% leech, like that's pretty damn good. But I imagine myself running this sort of a build, and then with the remaining 2 points kind of branching out and picking things I would need. So if I need detox, I can grab that. There is touch of death cooldown reduction there. Depending on how touch of death is going to work, it might dictate how important that is. It might be going back to the Legion BFA version, so I guess we'll see. If it is, then you'd probably want to put 2 points into that. And then maybe you could sacrifice an extra charge of roll for the detox, or you could substitute out of Jade Statue. Like honestly, all of this healing stuff, Jade Statue, Soothing Mist and all that, you probably only need if you're playing solo. But like most of the time I'm playing by myself without a healer, doing 1v2s or something, right, or in BGs. This is going to be great. So I'm very excited for this kind of stuff. That's going to be fun. In terms of like other little things, Chi Burst and Chi Wave made it in again. Honestly, they don't really do a lot of damage and they kind of just exist. Roll out. I would prefer if this was Freedom Roll, so that when you roll it cleanses snares off yourself, as opposed to this, which I personally don't see much use for. And then little things like Eye of the Tiger, and this damage reduction during Soothing Mist, which is mainly a PvE thing for Mistweavers for sure. But yeah, in general, very happy with this tree. I like the fact that, you know, if you don't need detox, you can drop it. If you don't want to run Serpent Statue, you can drop it and go for more like damage oriented stuff, or you know, depending on what that is, you can drop that. Maybe you don't need the touch of death cooldown reduction, you can go for detox, or you can just put 1 into there. It's going to be interesting. Hopefully I get alpha so I can actually test this stuff and see how it all works, but I'm currently not invited. But this is my personal build that I think I'm going to be going for. Something along the lines of this. And one thing that I did also consider is putting 1 point into Tiger Tail Sweep, purely for the range increase, because that's going to increase it to 8 yards. So that would be nice. You wouldn't take it for the cooldown reduction, because if you've taken a look at the Windwalker tree, there's still things like Kiefer's, right, for that minute playstyle, basically. So putting 1 point into that, if you can spare it for the increased range, might help you land double, triple sweeps in a bigger radius than people might expect. But overall, very happy. Very, very happy. However, I do think that roll and detox should swap places. That just makes more sense, I think. Maybe buff Windwalking back to 10% to make it more appealing, because a 4% move speed buff, I don't care. That's not enough for me to warrant taking it. And especially having to pick up Eye of the Tiger on the way to get it, I'll take a miss on that, right? So personally, I think swap roll and detox around, change this to freedom roll, buff Windwalking to make it more appealing, and maybe swap Eye of the Tiger for something else, or at least make it stronger, and do something more interesting with heavy air. A 10-yard range increase on Crackling Jade Lightning isn't anything special and mostly useless. There are maybe a couple of scenarios where you might get some use out of it, but in general, I would say probably not very useful. Maybe replace that with something that makes Jade Lightning usable while moving, instead of a 10-yard range increase. But overall, very, very happy with this. This is probably something I would run, and would be able to stick with most of the time. But I'm curious to see what this is going to be. I'm curious about the touch of death thing and how important that's going to be. But yeah, that's the general tree, and I am so stoked for it. As for the Windwalker tree, well, things get a little bit more interesting over here. I'm quite happy with this. There are a couple of big returning things like Strike of the Windlord, which I'm so happy to see coming back. Teachings of the Monastery, which is really cool and is going to lead to a very nice Blackout Kick build. All 3 Windwalker legendaries next to each other, Zawen, Kiefer's, and Invokers. Bone Dust Brew made it back if you like that. Last Emperor's Capacitor is also in. Drinking Horde cover, the legendary, Spiritual Focus. There's a lot of good stuff in here. So as we go through, we've got Fist of Fury, Touch of Karma, still exactly the same. Unfortunately, nothing to buff it to 100%. It's exactly as it is now. We've got Ascension and Power Strikes made a return. So every 15 seconds, your next Tiger Palm will generate 1 additional chi and deal double damage. So if you need extra chi, you can run that. As we move down, we've got Serpent Kick. It's a 25-second cooldown. That's because of a passive that came out in Shadowlands which reduced its cooldown by 5 seconds. Don't know if that's going to make it back in, but a 25-second cooldown Serpent Kick is no big nerf, considering the extra mobility we're getting from, you know, Celerity and Tiger's Lust combined. Gale Burst made it back in. This is another hint that that old style Legion BFA Touch of Death is coming back. So 10% of the damage you deal while Touch of Death is active will be added to its final damage. I'm just confused that, you know, that exists, but then there's also the Touch of Death Execute. You know, how's it going to work? What exactly is going on there? How would that work if you use it on a low health enemy? Would it even work? Curious to see, and like would really like to test that out. Over on the right side here, we've got returning Azurite traits, Open Palm Strike and Glory of the Dawn. So let's go ahead and grab one of them. We've got a choice node here for Serenity and Storm, Earth and Fire. I'm going to grab Serenity. Drinking Horn cover. So every chi spender you use or every chi you spend extends the duration of whichever cooldown you picked. And then coming after that is Invoke Swin. Now I would say from this point is kind of where you branch out and kind of decide where you want to go. So here's another Touch of Death modifier, buffs its damage and reduces its cooldown by a quarter second for every ability you use. That in combination with potentially shaving off a minute cooldown of Touch of Death, like we're looking at sub 1 minute cooldown Touch of Deaths, like that are probably going to hit very hard. And there's even more stuff down here for being able to buff it by an extra 40% and use it twice, and it cleaves 5 enemies. So like, I don't know exactly what's going on with Touch of Death, but it seems like there's a heavy focus on that. So I wonder what it's going to be like. But let's go ahead and just grab that. Over here we've got Jade Ignition. It's a legendary from Shadowlands, not really PvP oriented. Basically you do a full Fist of Fury and then you can crane kick and it deals like a chi explosion of damage, mainly for Mythic Plus kind of stuff. But you need to grab it to get Windlord, which I think it's kind of bizarre to have something like that come before Windlord. I think maybe this could be changed to something else. But moving down, we grab Windlord and also Thunder Fist. So when you press Windlord, for every enemy you hit, you gain a stack of this thing, which discharges nature damage on your melee strikes, which is pretty nice. Spiritual Focus made it in. So every 2 chi you spend reduces the cooldown of Storm, Earth and Fire. I'm going to assume it works for Serenity too, which is great because cooldown reduction on Serenity will help it line up with every leg sweep, or at least, you know, make it easier to line up. Currently a big weakness of Serenity is the fact that it's only got 1 charge, and lining up that 1 charge of Serenity with a 1 minute cooldown leg sweep is kind of rough because you have to wait. So that'll help line up the cooldowns quite nicely. Now here's a talent that I'm very excited for, Teachings of the Monastery. So every Tiger Palm causes your next Blackout Kick to strike an additional time, stacking up to 3. This is a Mistweaver thing, but having it as Windwalker is a huge game changer. Think about the basic Windwalker rotation, right? It's like Tiger Palm, Sun Kick, Tiger Palm, Fist of Fury, channel the whole thing, Tiger Palm, then you Blackout Kick. Now in between all of that, I've Tiger Palm 3 times, I've built up 3 stacks of this. That Blackout Kick is going to hit 4 times now. And each of those Blackout Kicks has a 15% chance to reset Sun Kick. Now even if you're not building up 3 stacks, every Blackout Kick that is coming after a Tiger Palm is going to hit twice. You're potentially doing very substantial amount of Blackout Kick damage, getting way more Sun Kicks out because of the cooldown reset, and then this has great synergy with talents over here. Hit Scheme, which makes it so your Blackout Kick increases the damage of what I assume is meant to be Sun Kick by 10% stacking 4 times. So imagine you had 3 stacks of this, you go into a burst, and you Sun Kick, get it on CD, then you Blackout Kick, which hits 4 times, builds up 4 stacks of this, resets the cooldown of Sun Kick most likely, and then you Sun Kick again, which is buffed by that 40% damage modifier. That'll be sick. I think that's going to be really, really cool. So that in synergy with that is mad. And then also, Shadowboxing treads over here, a 50% increase to Blackout Kick damage, and it cleaves. So imagine you're doing the exact same thing, but now it does 50% extra damage on all of those Blackout Kicks, and you hit 2 additional things around you. That's going to be so good. So Teachings of the Monastery in combination with Hit Scheme and Shadowboxing treads, really, really good. And I can definitely imagine going this way. By the way, I skipped over this. It's a Tiger Palm damage increase. You can probably dodge this because Tiger Palm damage isn't very good in the first place. So I'm probably going to avoid that on my way through the talent tree. So that synergy is awesome. As we move down on the left side, we've got Dancer Chiji. If you want to play that, you can run it. You've got Mark of the Crane up here. So like that same playstyle of tagging enemies and then buffing up a Dancer Chiji proc is still a thing. And as you move down here, you'll get Crane Kick damage increase, Bone Dust Brew, essentially Bone Marrow Hops, and Calculated Strikes. So those really massive Crane Kick procs are still going to be a thing. Down the right side is a little bit more peculiar because you've got this like Sun Kick modifier followed by Feline Stomp, which is an AoE focused sort of like Mythic Plus ability. But then after that is Last Emperor's Capacitor, which is purely single target focused, which I think is bizarre. Everything on the left side here is like AoE focused, you know, Crane Kicks, Bone Dust Brew and all that. And then you go down here and this is single target focused, but then there's just Feline Stomp. I think Feline Stomp should be changed for something else, or it should be buffed, but I don't think that really makes sense. That sort of transition there, it's kind of a bit weird. You can grab Whirling Dragon Punch here as well, and that's good. You can have Dragon Punch with Serenity now, so you don't feel like you're missing out on that by picking Serenity anymore, which is a great change. And then that leaves us with these final talents here, this section in the bottom, which has got these 3 Zuen modifiers. Zuen's Bond, which is the conduit from Shadowlands, Fury of Zuen, which is the Azurite trait from BFA, and then Empowered Tiger Lightning from Zuen currently. I'm kind of curious to see if Fury of Zuen procs the Empowered Tiger Lightning, because that could be good. So every Zuen you proc gives you a bulk amount of haste for 8 seconds, and then also you do 10% increased damage for those 8 seconds. Like that could be pretty good. So I wonder if those two have a synergy between each other. Zuen's Bond could be nice for just the damage increase on Zuen, but it's not too massive. Personally, what I think I would do is just go Fury of Zuen, and then now you can go down and pick up these 3 legendary powers. You can get all of them. So you can get Zuen's Battle Gear, Kiefer Skyreach Invokers as they are currently, and that's pretty mental. And what I've been thinking is, like, you know, with Zuen's Battle Gear, the Fist of Fury that increases your Sun Kick's crit chance, combined with Kiefer's, that's a 100% crit chance on Sun Kick. You are guaranteed a Sun Kick crit with that combination. So imagine you're going for a burst. You build up Teachings of the Monastery up to 3 stacks, and then you know, proc Kiefer's on the target, you Fist of Fury them, Sun Kick, which is gonna crit, then you get 4 Blackout Kicks, which buff your next Sun Kick by 40%, which is still gonna be a crit because it doesn't get consumed on the Sun Kick. The buff stays up. So you've got Fist of Fury, followed by a crit Sun Kick, followed by 4 Blackout Kicks, which buff your next Sun Kick by 40%, and it will crit again. That's pretty good. And you can stack that Kiefer's 50% crit buff with Windlord. And Windlord's most likely going to crit, and that's going to hit very hard. Windwalker Burst is changing up a little bit. It's got a focus on Blackout Kicks potentially if you want it, and that's really cool. You've got a more Fist of Fury oriented build by opting into Power Strikes and Open Palm Strikes up here, and grab that. Transfer the power down here as well. Blackout Kick and Sun Kick will increase the damage of your next fists, and again, that synergy with Teachings of the Monastery and getting more Blackout Kicks out for your Fist of Furies to make them hit harder, stacked with that and that. You could be looking at some very solid fist damage. And then, you know, if you really want to, you could kind of substitute out of the Blackout Kick stuff and go more towards here to get Bone Dust Brew, which is still going to be pretty strong. You're still looking at roughly like a 50% extra damage proc. So you could still do some very nice one-shots with like Strike of the Windlord and Kiefer's, right? Stacked on top of Bone Dust Brew. Could be pretty good. And so that build would probably kind of go something like this. Go down here, get Bone Dust Brew, get Kiefer's, grab the Bone Dust Brew modifier there, and then you got 1 point to kind of put wherever you want. But, oh man, I'm very pleasantly surprised with the talents. I'm really happy with the fact that there are different builds you could run. You know, you can run a more Fist of Fury oriented build with things like Transfer the Power, stacking up that quickly with Teachings of the Monastery and going for Open Palm Strikes. And then you could, you know, drop Shadowboxing Treads, go down here, grab that, and go for something like that for like more Fist of Fury damage, or you can opt out of that, drop those two, go for the Shadowboxing Treads, grab that instead, and I'm actually going to, you know, swap those two out for Fury of Zwen. That's what I meant to do. But there's a good variety here. Different builds you can run, opting for like the Bone Dust Brew one-shot build with Kiefers, or a more consistent damage build with like Fist of Fury and like that cleave, or a more Blackout Kick oriented build. You can have Dragon Punch for either Serenity or Storm Within Fire. Serenity cooldown reduction with Spiritual Focus. It's looking good. And then, you know, there's even wiggle room to get Last Emperor's Capacitor. Like, I could do that now, right? I feel like Phalanx Stomp should definitely be changed, but you could get that. So then you can have all of this stuff, this Blackout Kick build with a Windlord, with all 3 Windwalker legendaries, stacked on top of Last Emperor's Capacitor as well. And then, you know, if they put in that change where you can Jade Lightning while moving, that'll be crazy. I mean, that's just an idea that I had, but like, I think that would be better than a 10-yard increase on Jade Lightning. I am so stoked with these talents, in all honesty. There are a couple of things that I was hoping to see. I was hoping to see Storm Within Fire removed and, you know, back to Tiger Eye Brew. I was hoping to see Fist of Fury stun, but that might be a PvP talent, who knows. But with the cooldown reduction of all those extra Blackout Kicks and stuff, I don't imagine they're going to add Fist of Fury back in as a stun. I was hoping to see Touch of Karma buffed to 100%, or at least have a talent for that. But overall, I am very pleased with this. I'm curious about the Touch of Death situation, but I can imagine how much damage Touch of Death is going to do. And if it's seriously going to be like a 1 minute cooldown, that's going to be mental. 1 minute cooldown Touch of Death that can hit multiple people, like Jesus. That's going to be something special. I really hope I get into alpha so I can test this and make some burst videos and whatnot, but I'm stoked. Like, this is awesome. So, to quickly summarize everything, the general monk tree is really good. I like this sort of healing focused build where you can get Soothing Mist and Statue and Escape from Reality and go for that like very nice survival build. But I like that you can drop that and opt in for, you know, damage reduction and stuff like that over here. Maybe get some leech or some extra utility with rollout. I really wish they would buff Chi Wave or Chi Burst, or both of them, and make them an actual decent pick, because they're just dead at the moment. You would pick Chi Burst for Mythic Plus because of the Chi generation, but outside of it, you probably wouldn't choose it. But this talent tree is absolutely phenomenal. Overall, I am very, very happy with this. As for the Windwalker side, overall, pretty content with it. Curious to see what this not yet implemented talent is. That might dictate what's going to happen with other talents that you might be able to pick. If it's really strong, they might have to drop something else for it, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, overall it looks pretty damn good. But yeah, that basically summarizes my thoughts on this. Those are the builds that I've been thinking of. Very, very keen to see how they actually play. Hopefully I get into alpha, start making some burst videos and some tests, and test this more in depth. So thanks for listening to me talk for a couple of minutes. Just kind of wanted to get my thoughts out there into the world, and hopefully Blizzard keeps up with the good work. Hopefully they make a couple of those changes and make the talent trees make a little bit more sense and do some tweaks here, which I imagine will happen. But overall, looking very good. And with that, I will end the video. So cheers for watching, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Take care.